History is very important, but let's be honest. History is not always exciting and entertaining, but history can be both of these things if we think of it as like ice cream, and we have the added cherry and whipped cream on top. Historical fiction movies with satire can do just that for history. One of those historical fiction movies for me is Forrest Gump. To quote Forrest Gump, he said, "Mama always had a way of explaining things so that I could understand them." This quote perfectly describes how history, comedic fiction, can capture our interest. It may not be completely factual, but it explains it well enough so that your interest is piqued and it invites learning and history in a fun way. We need more entertaining forms of history, even if it takes some creative fiction. It gives people the opportunity to ask questions and go looking for accurate answers because what they watched was so entertaining. I want you to come away today with an exciting outlook on history, specifically Forrest Gump. Not only is Forrest Gump my favorite movie, but it also has a large amount of historic fiction along with Forrest Journey. Who wouldn't listen to me? I got my love for history from watching Forrest Gump when I was just 7 years old. It got me thinking and looking for the accurate answers to the questions that I had in that movie. Now I am a big into history. You probably won't ever see me as excited as when the History Channel comes out with a new docuseries about Ulysses S. Grant, who was the 18th president of the United States. Seriously, watch it. It's amazing. And it's called Grant. History is very important, and if we don't start looking at other ways to share history that are more entertaining, I am worried that people will no longer want to learn about it. History can help us learn vicariously from mistakes of the past and also look to what has worked well. We need to preserve history in the minds of the children of our future, and that means changing how we are learning it. Let's dive in how Forrest Gump has influenced multiple people to fall in love with history without even knowing it, and how we need to continue to make such films to be able to have history blossom in those who would not be interested otherwise. Have you ever had an experience where you were talking to someone about your love for history, something that had happened in history that they taught you when you were in school, and yet that person had no recollection of such things? I have been there more times than I can count. I love history, and I love to talk about history to others, but then I tend to bore them. But if I come at it from a different and fun perspective, like they do in the movies, then it opens a whole new window for people to love talking and learning about history. If you haven't watched the first movie, Forrest Gump, then first I feel terribly sorry for you. And it makes it now so that I'll need to give you a brief summary of the movie. To put it simply, the movie follows a man throughout his life as he is involved in a major historical events between the 1950s and the 1980s. One historic time that he speaks about is of the Vietnam War. I remember when I was little and I was watching Forrest Gump for what I assume was the 1 millionth time, it dawned on me that I was watching history. I went straight to the internet and began to search for what was true and what was fiction. To my surprise, it was all pretty much true except Forrest was put into all of those. That made me look at how I consumed history from here on out. I believe that there are many people like myself who have inadvertently found their love for history by watching a comedy that was loosely based on historical facts, but was entertaining, engaging, and not biased. Some people can't go full into history because it seems not relatable for them. I was one of those people. In the academic journal titled Forrest Gump and the Future of Teaching the Past, it talks about how 15 families were used in a study, and the only common factor between those families is that they had a junior in high school. The study showed the family an image of the Vietnam War, and they would have the kids and their parents comment about it without prompting. What was interesting is that 9 out of those 15 families brought up Forrest Gump in relation to that picture. It said that most of the children had gotten their first encounter with Vietnam through Forrest Gump, and they were introduced to that through their social studies teacher. According to the journal, Forrest Gump creates an apolitical platform, and that way the audience is able to come to their own conclusion without having any sway on the matter. I think this is why Forrest Gump is so popular and why we need more films like this. We need to be able to come to our own conclusions about history and not have any bias, while creating an element of fun. We would all learn so much more about history, and I feel that the world would be a lot better place with humor in it. If there were more films that had historical fiction with humor, then we would be able to get history out to the masses. If we continue to forget about history as we get older, then what would we have learned from the past? Most people have heard of the quote by philosopher George Santayana, in which he said, "Those who do not learn history are doomed to repeat it." There are multiple ways that we get our youth and those who aren't big fans of history to turn a corner. We can have them just watch the movies that are out now that have comedic fiction in them. Also, start to encourage who do enjoy history to merge with film in some way. If we need to get history out to everyone, then we should be lowering the ratings to either a PG or PG-13, so it isn't just for adults. Lastly, get more of them into the classroom. Kids could even make their own historical films in classes and make them fun with people of their own age so that they enjoy watching it. If we do these small little steps, then we might be able to keep history alive without reading off of a book that is boring and dry. In conclusion, I believe that there are films that bring about the same feelings that Forrest Gump has been able to do. Jojo Rabbit just did that with its whimsical nature. Again, history is not always exciting and fun, but we can make it such with movies and make it so we can look at the past and remember what was happened without making it boring or something that you just have to do. It can be turned into something that is exciting and something that you can look forward to doing. To end, I feel like Forrest Gump when he was about done with all of his years of running. When he stopped, turned around and said, "I'm pretty tired. I think I'll go home now." Thank you. And here's my husband. Hey.